Anthony Marquez is a graphic novel artist and prominent figure in the world of comic books. Graduating from the Joe Kubert School in Dover, New Jersey, he embarked on his career at the MADA Design Studio in New York City. He returned to his alma mater to be the school's event coordinator, eventually taking on the role of instructor. He branched out into the world of editing, collaborating with well-known publishers like DC Comics and Dynamite Entertainment. Today, Anthony Marquez is president and owner of the nationally renowned Kubert School. In this capacity, he plays a vital role in nurturing the next generation of comic book writers. But his passion for the comic book world doesn't stop there. He is also the proprietor of the comic book shop Dewey's Comic City, located in the Kubert School. Here, he shares his profound knowledge of the genre, offering enthusiasts a genuine connection to the rich history of comic books. Hello and welcome back to Garden State of the Arts. Our guest today is Anthony Marquez. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Could you share with us any early memories or influences you might have had that sparked your interest in art and comics?
So I'd say it really kicked off around 1989, all those many, many moons ago, back when the Michael Keaton Batman movie came out, and that was so exciting, especially for a little kid. I was about 5 years old, and I remember going to the movie theater, and they made it look like you were actually entering a cave. So it was really cool. They took like aluminum foil, and they painted it black, so it made it look like you were walking through the stalagmites or whatever those things are called. And it was impactful, but also, you know, growing up around that time, I had watched all of the Superman films starring Christopher Reeve. My older brother had this really wonderful collection of different sticker art and records that featured all the superheroes and different characters that were out around that time. So I had seen records like with Superman and Peter Pan, and I would just draw them over and over again, or just drawing Batman in general and Superman. And my parents noticed that I was taking a strong interest in it, and so they wound up bringing me to the local comic shop that was out back there, and we picked up our first few comics, and in one way or another I've been drawing and creating stories since I was 5 years old.
That's beautiful. So from your first spark of inspiration, you actually ended up attending the renowned Joe Kubert School. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience there and how it inspired your artistic journey?
Sure. So the Joe Kubert School is an incredible school in general. It's a 3-year program. And so it was something that I had always wanted to do, but it was something that I was a little bit leery about because I hated the idea of having to deal with the deadlines and having people telling you what to do. I think there's this sort of misconception of, and fear in general of having to hit these deadlines and draw stuff that you don't want to do, you know. But you very quickly realize when you start doing other kinds of work that drawing is such a gift, and that if you're not doing it and you're doing something else and you have that talent, that it's a waste. So I also had some wonderful belief and backing systems from my wife, and her guiding me to go through and do this. And so because of her, I was able to attend the school and learn underneath the tutelage of some really incredible instructors, including Joe Kubert himself. And I've never, ever regretted it. It's been an incredible journey ever since.
Wow. So on that note, who exactly is Joe Kubert?
Sure. So Joe Kubert is really on the Mount Rushmore of comic book artists. He had set so many standards along the way in his journey, and he actually started drawing comics when he was about 12 or 13 years old. And so he also created the first 3D comic, a bunch of different things. But he noticed that people were coming up to him and asking him about, how do you break into this industry? How do you get into comics? And so he recognized a need was there. So he and his wife, Ariel Kubert, actually founded the Joe Kubert School, and they started that off in 1976.
That's amazing. That's incredible that you took your inspiration from comic books and were able to attend a school tailored specifically for this career. So from this school, you eventually followed to the MADA Design in New York. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience there and any projects you might have worked on?
Sure. So one of the great things about the Joe Kubert School is that they bring in different companies in our 3rd year, and they go through our portfolios and they hire the students to start working. So I was hired by MADA Design, and it was a really incredible experience. So, you know, all of a sudden you're hired, and now you're traveling into New York, you're going on the subway, you're going into a building and looking out over the skyline everywhere, and it's really overwhelming and emotional. And one of the first projects had was actually drawing some of the Spider-Man storybooks and coloring books and working on Disney princesses and all sorts of different things. And it was a great learning experience to work in a studio atmosphere. And so I learned a lot of different things from it, and I've been able to apply it to every single sort of position that I've had since.
That's quite the journey. So you eventually went back to the Joe Kubert School, taking on the role of event coordinator. What inspired you to go back, and what responsibilities were required with this role?
So I think that everyone that attends the Joe Kubert School, we refer to ourselves as Cubies. And so once you're a Cubie, you're always a Cubie. You can never leave. So I knew I was going to wind up back there in one way or another. And so when I went back, I saw that there was a position for an events coordinator position, and I applied to it, and thankfully I was hired. And it was a great experience. I got to travel along with Joe and Adam and Andy, and we would go from city to city. And one of the things that I was very, very proud of, and still am very proud of today, is that we were able to establish connections to the different children's hospitals and the different cities that we would travel to, and we would hold these sort of charity events where we would do these drawings and raise funds and donate them to those hospitals.
That is so kind of you. What a beautiful way to leave your mark on this school and helping with the community as well. So transitioning into editing from having this experience with Joe Kubert and Meta Design in New York, you actually have worked for some quite prominent publishers, such as DC Comics, Dynamite Entertainment. Are there any memorable projects that you've worked on during that time period?
So it depends. You know, like when I look back on my career so far, there's a lot of things I'm very proud of. In particular, you know, doing the Green Hornet series, that was really incredible. But then also working on Batman, the audio adventures. You know, anytime you get to work on Batman, that was a major move forward for me, and I really appreciate that. And being able to sit down and kind of share that with my kids as they've gotten older now at this point has been very, very special. But also, when I was in editorial at DC, being able to work on projects like with the artists in general, the writers, because you get to work with these people that you really have looked up to, and that was fantastic.
I think it's really inspiring that you've started from such, you know, sparking a light for your interest in comics to being able to learn so much about the field and meeting all these renowned figures and prominent figures as well. So speaking of the artwork that you've worked on, our publishers actually have some footage of some of your pieces, and we'd love to get a little more information, the creative process behind it all.
Would love to talk about it. So what we have here is one of the issues of Batman the Audio Adventures, and I think what people don't really realize is how much time and effort goes into producing these books. This one issue alone could take, you know, about 2 months from start to finish. So you have someone that has to write it, you have a penciler, you have an inker, there's a colorist and a letterer, there's editorial teams, production teams, a bunch of different people involved. So this is a whole process, and this was a series that I worked on called Green Hornet. And one of the things that I did here was actually a lot of the co-writing with the writer and working to get that all put together. And this was a lot of fun. This is one of our little signed copies, but it was a good time to work on, and it also proved that I could hit the deadlines of an ongoing series. Now, many people know that I am a huge fan of the movie film series Ghostbusters, so it was a real honor to be able to work on the 35th anniversary series of covers for this, these films. So I was able to do the original, I was able to work on the real Ghostbusters, Extreme Ghostbusters, and 2016 films, and all of the covers connected to create one large poster. So you can notice that the No Ghost logo is actually in the bottom right corner, and those all connected together. And this right here is Cobra Commander. We're at New York Comic Con, and this is based off of a series that I was able to do some work on for G.I. Joe versus the $6 Million Man. But what we have right here is a cover that was produced and done by the incredible John Cassaday, and I was able to do one of the variants for it as well.
That's beautiful. So as an artist, you've had the opportunity to create such incredible characters like Batman, Green Hornet, Ghostbusters, as seen here. What unique perspectives were you able to add to these characters?
I think that as an artist, you have to you go into everything with your own unique perspective and like kind of who you are. I like comedy a lot. I like telling jokes. I like making people laugh. So I'm always looking to kind of infuse that into the artwork, or work on characters that are a little bit happy. I really like happy characters. So Robin in particular was a good time to kind of play with. And you know, as a comic book artist, you're not just drawing just a figure standing there. They have to be moving. You have to evoke some sort of an emotion or have movement. So when you get to work with a character like Robin and infuse that happiness and fun and comedy into him, into the way he moves and talks, I try to look for those sort of things. So with him in particular, I always had him eating, and I always had him jumping around and moving constantly. As someone that has a little son, my son Liam, he's always on the move. So I wanted to infuse that into Robin as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's really, these intricate designs that you're making really bring out these characters, and it shows the detail that goes into such comic books and creating art like this. But Anthony, thank you so very much for coming on and letting us get a step into the comic book world. It was incredible to get to hear from you and share your experience. And we are so looking forward to see some of your works on the shelves, see in the future that we have to go. But thank you so very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Amazing. And we will see you all next time on Garden State of the Arts.